Gale Banks.
Gale Banks.
Gale Banks.
Gale Banks.
Gale Banks.
To call Gale Banks an engineer would be an understatement.
This is Speed School with Gale Banks.
School has begun.
Welcome back to Speed School, everybody. I'm Gale Banks, here with my buddy Walt Ware. And this is our fourth episode together. We wanted to go back to the late 70s and start talking about diesel.
Diesel.
And of course, you were into diesel.
Since I was born, almost.
Yeah.
At least since Caterpillar, right?
So in 1972, you found yourself calling on Caterpillar in Peoria, and you were there to build Garrett business.
Yes.
Until you ended your career with Garrett, they were your account.
I never got rid of that account.
You never get,
No, I had the whole world, but I never got rid of them. They never let go.
We weren't into diesel here at Banks until the late 70s. We were building twin-turbo gasoline-fueled marine engines, four-cylinder, small block, big block, for pleasure boats, jet drive boats, all kinds of
race boats.
Race boats of
everything.
every kind. We weren't doing any diesel at all. We weren't buying diesel engines for marine from GM because they had the Oldsmobile-derived 350, which is a whole story in its own right.
Yes.
Because we had set a national championship, actually achieved a national championship in jet boats with Oldsmobile.
That was a 455, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that time frame, we beat
with the
big
jets.
block Chevys. Yeah, jet drive. A Southwind boat with a jacuzzi jet drive, which we modified a bit, and a guy named Barry Lieberman driving it. He was the boat guy out of Hardin Marine, which was an Oldsmobile dealer.
Hard Knoll. I know.
Yeah.
I know those guys.
Hard Knolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of what we did to modify it was considered in the design of the diesel version of that engine. And I had
The 5.7 diesel.
Yeah, and I had a lot of arguments with guys at Oldsmobile. There was a guy at Oldsmobile also who was really into tuning the intake tract on an engine and wrote some SAE papers. Rodney Rask was his name. And he really got me going on intake tuning. And at the time, they had air filters with snorkels on them. He was tuning the snorkel.
Oh, okay.
I mean, all of that stuff.
I remember all that stuff.
Yeah. It really got me thinking about ram air and air density and all that jive. And this is way the hell back in the 70s. I get some diesel engine prototypes from the guys at Chevrolet End Products. They're the guys I was buying my marine engines from. They did police cars as well. They did all kinds of stuff. What they were looking for was whether or not the engine would tolerate turbocharging. Now, get this. You know what a 3208 CAT is.
Of course I do. I was there at the birth.
So the 3208 CAT was naturally aspirated in its...
Initially.
Now, how big is that 3208?
Isn't it like 8 liters?
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a big...
I've actually
really robust
I should remember,
engine.
but I don't.
The guys at GM were going, if you turbocharge this, we can sell it against the marine version of the 3208 CAT.
Good luck.
Yeah. It's like, one of the engines weighs 1,500 pounds and the other one weighs 600 pounds. You give them the same horsepower, one's going to last longer than the other one. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about the 3208, too, I mean, it was CAT's first entree into light-duty diesel. And so
they called that light duty.
They called light duty because, the real diesels have sleeves, and you can use them over and over for millions of miles.
You can reman that
you just
engine.
Re-sleeve them, right?
Yeah.
These had, proud bores, no sleeves. Mm-hmm. So in Tide Caterpillar, it never really got outside. They call it the butterfly engine. I'm not kidding.
Anything, it'll only go about 400,000 or 500,000 miles, maybe 1 million, who knows. We've got an issue here of diesel and gas turbine progress. Special emphasis, lighter duty vehicle dieselization. Oh my.
Yeah.
This is October of 1980. And I knew the guy that did this, Bruce Wadman, lived in Solano Beach.
Yes, he did.
He was a body surfer. I don't know if you knew that.
I think I did. I knew Bruce pretty well. He'd come visit me all the time because he was always looking for news, right?
Yeah. He wore an Australian bathing cap when he was surfing.
I never saw that.
I did, because I was body surfing down there as well.
Okay, I never body surfed.
Yeah. It's a good way to break your neck, if your arm's back. Anyhow, the guys at Chevrolet had sent me 2 pre-production engines.
Were these 6.2s or?
6.2s.
Okay.
And suddenly, I'm in the diesel business. That was late 78 or early 79.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was in that time period.
Mm-hmm. So I'd started getting into diesel. You were deeply into diesel. This engine, I think they built that engine into the late 80s.
They did.
They were interested in what we could do with them as marine engines with turbochargers. And they wanted to test the waters, so to speak, to see if the 6.2 twin-turboed could compete with a 3208 Cat, which, power density.
That's a tall order.
Pounds per horsepower. If we made that engine, the 6.2, the same power or slightly more than the 3208 Cat was producing at the time.
I think Cat was 180 natural.
Yeah, well, the 6.2 was 130 natural.
Right.
And I think at that time, the 3208 Cat had not been turbocharged.
No, it was not.
Yeah. The goal would have been 180 horsepower. But in a marine environment, you test the engine way different than in a automotive or light pickup environment.
Exactly. More like continuous duty.
Yes. So we easily achieved the power number. It went beyond that, actually, over 200 horsepower. I think around 215 is where we ran out of fuel pump. The 6.5 had a different pump later.
Right. I'm aware of the 6.5 is when I got involved.
Yeah.
Because remember, you and I both knew Dick Hamparian.
Yeah.
And when Dick, he was a Detroit diesel engineer.
Yes.
And then he got involved with the GM program, the more passenger car side.
Yeah.
To turn it into a light duty diesel.
So Dick was employed by GM at that point.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know when he ended up at Detroit Diesel.
He was in an engineering facility in Romulus. Mm-hmm. And I worked with the development of the 6.5. The 6.5 came out. It was not turbocharged.
That's right.
Initially. And then Warner Ishii won the business for that.
Initially.
Yeah. Borg Warner didn't have a turbo business.
Right.
I just learned from you a little while ago.
And IHI had not penetrated the U.S.
Right. We were also working on the Firebird 250 mile an hour Firebird program, and that was with Pontiac. And they had sent me a pre-production car. At about the same time, I got 2 GMC pickup trucks as support vehicles. So they've got engineering plates on them and pre-production 6.2 engines in them. And it's like, man, these things are gutless. This is terrible. And they smoked a great deal. And you guys know how much I hate smoke.
Yeah.
We turbocharged them, and the word kind of got out in the automotive community that this new diesel could be bumped up a bit, and you got better mileage and less smoke as well.
That's right.
So while it failed as a marine engine, it wouldn't take
not durable.
The joke. It was wonderful as a work engine in a pickup truck. it gets to be about 1985, and a guy named John Rock, a seasoned GM vet, takes over GMC. I think he might have retired, and they got him back. GMC wasn't doing too good. So he takes over GMC, and maybe a year into his tenure there, he calls me up one day, and you've been turbocharging our engines. Or I says, you mean the 6.2? Yeah. I want to talk to you about setting up some sort of arrangement with us to do a ship-through program. I want to set up some sort of arrangement to do a ship-through program. Like limited
production option?
Yeah. Dealer-specified option, they called it. I went, wow, that's complimentary. Why would you want to do this? I mean, I'm looking a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah. But, don't ask.
He says, well, your option, the bank's option, is not an option that we offer, but we'd like to, because the 6.2 engine plant in Moraine, Ohio, is down to 17% capacity. We were the first ones to market with a durable diesel V8 in a pickup truck. The next year, Ford comes in, which would be 83, with a 6.9 Navistar, or as I like to say, International Harvester.
Yep.
That combination was so robust, torque city compared to the 6.2. It was also naturally aspirated.
And it's bulletproof.
Bulletproof. 500,000 miles minimum in a pickup truck. And those guys have been kicking our ass. Late 81, we came out with a kit for the 6.2. Late 82, we came out with a kit for the Ford 6.9. I don't know when they came out with the Dodge Cummins.
Much later, as I recall.
Well,
the Cummins with the 5.9.
They were working on a guy named Dan Sneezak at Dodge. I think Highland Park, is that where they were?
That's headquarters.
Yeah. Asked me to set a land speed record with their new pickup truck.
I remember that.
But nobody had a turbo until they came out. So it was around 88, I think.
I think that's very close.
Yeah. Well, we beat them by a year. We had a turbo in a pickup truck, sold through 2,500 GMC dealers a year before the Dodge Cummins. The first turbo in a pickup truck said Banks on it. I worked out a deal with John Rock, worked with the Rinke family in the Detroit area, dealers, car dealers, and engineers, to install the systems in Almont, Michigan. I thought it would be just like a one-year thing. Dick Hamparian,
that's right,
working on the 6.5, we sold them turbo systems, which were 6.2 intended, and they ran them on prototype turbo 6.5s. In other words, the 6.5 came out with no turbo. They were late. Hamparian's group was late.
They were late
with the 6.5, and it kept us going quite a while. That dealer specified option program probably lasted 4 or 5 years, something like that. And Motor Trend, when they came out with the turbo 6.5, the Ford turbo 6.9, the turbo 6.5, and the Ford turbo, which Power Stroke, and they tested our 1-ton turbo 6.2 against all of them.
Oh, against the 6.5 also?
Yes.
All right. Oh, yes. That's beautiful.
We outperformed all of them.
Yeah. Well, I know why, but
well, we did.
I'm not. I know.
I think the fuel economy on ours wasn't the best of all of them. I think we beat some of them. I think the 6.5 beat us. What they were looking at with the 6.5 was not to have a heavy-duty engine like the Cummins or the Navistar.
The Cummins was an industrial-grade engine. The 5.9,
yeah,
that's a boat anchor.
Yes.
I know you know a lot about that, but I was actually even though Cummins had their own internal supplier, Hoslett, they owned Hoslett at the time. I was involved in that program from the greenfield in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, before they ever built the first engine, because I did all the turbos for Case.
I believe that engine, the 5.9, was for Case.
It was Case Cummins. They were a joint venture.
Yeah.
And so
it was like 130, 135 horsepower
Yeah,
in the tractor.
Mm-hmm. It was a farm tractor.
It was a farm tractor.
Right.
To your point,
The
5.9 was a farm tractor engine to begin with.
It actually went in light other earth equipment.
Yeah.
It was industrial, kind of commercial engine.
So
It was not light duty.
this is a little side trip. We did a 5.9 marine engine program for the Navy.
I know you did. That's what I was leading to.
and as part of that program, we went to Cummins. We talked about lightening the engine. They divulged all their weak points to us. They had fastener people in the meeting, head gasket sealing, how much wrenching, what's the total wrenching pressure, yada, yada, yada. And they told us and the Navy where the weaknesses were.
Because you pushed that thing
Yeah,
real hard.
700 horsepower. And it wasn't a CGI block or anything. They'd never done that. And that, once again, that's a separate story. We had to do 700 horsepower, 1,050 pound-feet with a 5.9 for a double NATO, 800 hours, 85% of which was at the torque peak or the horsepower peak.
That's Marine.
8.5 hours out of every 10.
That's Marine duty.
Yeah. This is Marine military.
I know.
NATO.
I
Land vehicles, we do the NATO 400. This is a double NATO.
And the load cycle's a whole lot different.
We pushed the deck off the block.
Yeah.
Took us a while to get to 800 hours. So John Rock tells me we're down to 17% capacity in Marine. I should have shut it down a long time ago.
Sounds like one of my stories.
Yeah. But
I think he and I should meet.
But we're doing the 6.5 and the yada, yada, yada. And I need to do something that's fresh. And the Banks turbo is fresh. So the press will pay attention to us. Because Ford's eating our lunch. Or I got to shut down the program entirely and find another engine. But I know that Cummins and Chrysler, are getting real cozy. Couldn't be a Cummins, and there ain't much else in terms of what we need.
No, there's not.
So we did the program, PBS, what they call it, Motor Week. John Davis, the host, came out here. We did a whole program on this Banks turbocharged program. Yeah. Also, we did all the marketing. They gave us 3 new trucks, which we equipped and went directly to the dealerships. We actually hired some people to do that. It was a popular program. We didn't do it for Chevrolet.
But GMC was the
They started getting
flagship,
press. They started selling more
more trucks.
Yeah. We also did the press, and it picked up their sales tremendously. We didn't do a program with Chevrolet. They didn't ask. But I think I did the right thing. I didn't approach them either. Our aftermarket sales on Chevrolet branded trucks doubled.
Went through the roof.
Yeah. And we picked up the direct deal with GMC. So through the early 80s, the company was pivoting towards diesel. And that was a lucky thing because President Carter precipitated huge interest rate. Prime interest was 21%, as I recall.
That's right. On top of that.
That's preferred customers rate. And I had an SBA loan.
Oh, my God.
And it was 3 points over prime. I was paying 24% interest on my SBA loan.
God.
Yeah. 24%.
No, I'm still.
There's a word for that.
I'm
It's
still
usury. Earlier in my career, I picked up the word usury.
Yes, it's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
It truly is in the Bible.
Yes, it is.
And they had set a rate, the U.S. government, and now they're exceeding it hugely, double, maybe triple. It's ridiculous.
Well, on top of that, the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, corporate fleet average miles per gallon.
You are describing the 80s perfectly.
I'm describing now.
Yeah.
But so don't get me going on that.
But we were big in the marine industry, and suddenly you build the engines, you ship them, and maybe 45 to 90 days later you get paid by the boat manufacturers.
Floor stock.
We were the power option for the freaking world. Guys in Europe wanted big-ass diesels. Well, in the 70s, we weren't into diesel.
Nope.
Our worldwide market collapsed with the first Jimmy Carter recession. Late 70s, I can't give you exact times.
It ran into the 80s.
Well, it's weirding me out because it's happening right now.
That's where I'm at.
We had a recession. Then for a couple of quarters, it was gone.
And then it was
And
back.
then we had a hell of a recession.
And then it was back.
It was like, what is this? A
The
double?
the peaks were like, I don't remember exactly,
Okay.
73 and 79.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, spikes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
73 is when I got the funds to do the Monte Carlo program with the 72 Monte Carlo with the 350 Chevy to turbo it,
yes,
to meet CAFE
exactly,
and emissions both.
Yep.
Remember, we did talk about that in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this was all building, and it was leading to diesels being so much more fuel efficient. And even beyond that, when you give them more air, because they happen to love air, right? Density.
Yes.
And you're going from there, on and on.
Yeah. Excess air in a diesel. You can't kill one with excess air.
Well, let me.
It's very difficult.
You know the laboratory in Alameda, that building that you referred to here.
Yeah.
It was now 500,000 square feet by 1980.
Yeah.
To address these things that were happening, because we were out of capacity. I mean, we were making it. We couldn't make enough. In the lab where we had the 24 test cells.
Yep.
17 of them were dyno cells.
Yes.
I took a Mack engine, which was undersized, the 676, and they didn't have the capital monies that Cummins and Cat and Detroit Diesel had.
Yep.
And so we had to take this little motor and get as much out of it. So we had remember the tip turbine fan?
Absolutely.
We had air-to-air charge air coolers, a tip turbine fan blowing more air through the charge air cooler. I had back curved impellers called the Egley wheel.
Yes.
And I ran,
which became standard.
I because of efficiency.
Yes.
Right. I mean, we were going for peak, call it ADA overall, which is turbocharger efficiency, turbine, mechanical bearing system, and compressor, because that uses the horsepower, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then
it also makes the horsepower.
That's true. Well, but I had a ability to simulate, kind of like I did in jet engine business, in one of the cells. I can close my eyes and see the cell. And I ran that Mack engine at air-fuel ratios of 40-1, even 60-1.
And
trying to figure out, now you're talking about lean burn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we were trying to figure out what it liked to do the tasks that, it had to do. But talk about diesels loving air.
What was the injection system in that Mack engine?
It was mechanical at that time.
Yeah.
It wasn't electronic.
Yeah. I kind of look at EGT and particulate, et cetera.
Yes.
If you look at getting a 40-1 air-fuel ratio or a 60-1 air-fuel ratio, I think you've gone too far.
You have. No, that's
we
not.
know that today.
That's not where we ended up, Gale.
Yeah.
But I've always tested the limits, as you know.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've done that.
Yeah.
Lacing it with nitrous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see air-fuel ratios that are mind-numbingly lean. You're using every calorie of fuel energy. Right. It's amazing. And you can back off the turbochargers.
Right. You got the oxygen.
We're going to be doing
the oxygen.
With the Lockjaw project. We're getting ready to dyno that engine. It's got a big supercharger, no turbos. And I'm going to lace it with nitrous as well. I want to find out where the supercharger should be and its contribution to combustion. We may be able to back down the supercharger. Who knows? Yeah. We're kind of talking about how this company got into diesel. You're back from England now, and Allied Signal owns Garrett at this point?
Not yet. They didn't tell me that when I came back, and maybe nobody knew. I came back in February. Mm-hmm. I just found it, the bulletin I got. July 30th, it was published, legally published, that it had been approved for Allied Chemical to buy Signal Oil. Or the Signal companies.
Yes.
Okay. That was a bad day for me.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a really bad day. But anyway.
I'd like to go back to your return from England. What did you discover?
The guy in Europe who didn't like me, who was on paper my boss, right?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he actually came to like me before I left. But he said to me when I went back, and he had a party to send me away, and he gave me a Baccarat Eagle. Really nice piece of crystal.
Yes.
And he said, "Well, do you have any idea what you're going back to?" And I honestly didn't. I mean, I was consumed. I'm always consumed, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it wasn't my job. It wasn't my problem.
Right.
I had enough trouble with the union and whatever. And so I said, I did have an idea, right? I got back, and I was, John Kazir brought me back. But he told me to come back.
Yes.
I know
commanded you to come back.
Basically, yeah. I didn't have a choice. So then I get back, and the first thing I do is I actually found a thing that I had a little card said, "You're to meet with Jack Teskey at 10 whatever o'clock in the morning." Right after I got back, and you don't usually go see the chairman of the board.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I thought, and I've been there a few times before. Okay. And I went up. I actually went there, and he said, one of the things he said to me is, Walt, he said, there's things aren't going real well here with customers, and nobody ever gave me a pass on anything, ever. But Jack Teskey said, Walt, I want you to know that we don't expect you or the company to ever do business again with Ford or Chrysler.
What?
He gave me a pass on that.
They had screwed up Ford and Chrysler?
They had screwed up so bad. It was a war. It was personal at the highest levels.
So
it was personal at the highest levels.
You ever hear of a guy named Hank Dershin?
Yes.
He was a turbo four-banger guy at Ford. He was at AEEO, Advanced Engine Engineering Office. In the 80s, the whole turbo Pinto 2300 deal, I think they had a 2-liter version of the engine as well.
There was a 2-liter, but there was a 2.3 also.
Yeah. A guy named Art Buglione.
I did not know him.
Yeah, he's a Ford. He started, or he ran that turbo program. And in fact, had Hugh McInnes and I come back to their theater or whatever they call it at Greenfield Village.
Greenfield, right.
Yeah. And wanted us to talk to the engineering and marketing people, oddly, about turbocharging and where it could go, et cetera, right down to what was our opinion on blow-through carburetor versus draw-through carburetor. Yeah. I mean, it was...
pretty basic.
Yeah. So Hank Dershin, one day I'm visiting him, and he says, these guys at Garrett were using their turbocharger. They're failing.
That's right.
and they're blaming us. And they're arrogant, not on your watch. That didn't happen on your watch.
That didn't happen before I went to England, and it didn't happen after I got back. Because Garrett was predominantly an aerospace company, right?
Yes.
So the guy that replaced me he took and tried to turn the turbo business into an aerospace style business. And he dealt with all the OEMs like they were government or airframe manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
Egotistical, arrogant, we're the best, we're number one. I mean, this is what he did. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't believe you can destroy. I did all this before I went to England.
Yeah.
I did all that. I can't believe you can destroy a company, a corporation, in a couple years with one guy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he had helpers, but I mean, literally, your words, arrogant aerospace approach is exactly how they destroyed the business.
Yeah. I knew about the Ford issue.
You got,
you know,
that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
It was everywhere. It was literally everywhere. It was so bad. Ford is a pretty arrogant and hard to deal with company. Okay. Of the companies I've dealt with, and I've dealt with almost every significant engine or vehicle OEM in the world, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not bragging. That was my job, right? Sometimes whether I wanted it or not. And they were very difficult to deal with. And when they were doing, I don't know what actually happened, but it was like the boardroom of Garrett Corporation, and Ford was there, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but it might have been, it rolled all the way back to Jim Hiscock, who was head of global procurement. Mm-hmm. And Ford, the OEMs try to pull a lot of weight, the car companies especially.
Yes.
Caterpillar did it in a much more dignified way. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they did the relationship thing. Ford actually wanted a whole lot of technical rights and a whole lot of thing about turbos if they were going to give Garrett the turbo business.
Yes.
Mr. Teskey, who was no weak character, told Ford to put it someplace. I guess.
Yeah. How about pound sand?
Pound sand. That's it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that till later, but obviously Jack knew what he'd done with Ford. Okay.
Yeah.
He basically told him to pound sand. Ford then said, and it was way up, that Ford would never use turbos again, most specifically from Garrett, and they were going to supercharge. You remember they supercharged the T-Bird? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like, I mean, I've seen it between Garrett and Cummins, okay?
Yeah.
Over gas turbines for vehicles, okay? I've been through where top guys, just their egos are so, you know, and maybe one of them's not reasonable too, okay? Mm-hmm. But the bigger story is exactly what you got. Mm-hmm. The company had gone so full of themselves and arrogant, egotistical, and they thought, you know, well, they were number one in the world. That's the quickest way to stop being number one in the world, I know.
And you knew Hank Dershin.
Vaguely.
Okay.
But I knew...
He was not arrogant.
No.
At all.
No, I'm not saying he was.
Yeah.
No.
But
I'm saying the guys
he's the guy that made the decision.
The guys that replaced me were arrogant. It wasn't Hank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Dave Platt and Iacocca are now running Chrysler, right?
Yes.
Dave Platt is the head of global procurement for Chrysler Corporation. Mm-hmm. They have a big conference in 1985 in the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the whole room. They invite all their suppliers, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the purchasing guys. He's giving a pep talk to his suppliers, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, they want price decreases. Okay.
Yes.
You know what it's all about. But Dave Platt gets up there, and here I am. I'm literally just off the boat again, and I'm in the audience, right? So Dave Platt takes the microphone, and he says, we're here today to, you know, basically talk to all you guys and, you know, what we got to do to, you know, win and go forward and be successful and what we want you to do.
Yeah.
And he said, and, you know, there's some bad examples out there. And he said, actually, one of the companies here today will never do business with Chrysler again. It was me.
What?
I swear to God, Gale.
No.
I swear. You can't. I mean, I'm like, what the heck, right?
What happened with Chrysler?
Platt came from Ford,
Oh, I know that.
but he brought it with him.
Oh.
But they had other problems. They had no small engines, remember? They only had the...
Well, they bought Mitsubishi.
They wanted Mitsubishi engines, and Mitsubishi wanted to sell them turbos.
Yes.
Because Mitsubishi had a disaster in Japan with turbos. They could not sell a turbo car, just like the early diesels, for a long time in Japan.
Yeah.
They built a turnkey plant, 400,000 units capacity, and they couldn't sell any in Japan.
Wow.
Chrysler wanted
Yeah.
V6s because they
Yeah.
only had 4s. I was turboing their 4s.
Mm-hmm.
So then they kicked Garrett off of Turbo 1 and brought in Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole pitch. They basically fired Garrett and they hired Mitsubishi.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And they want everybody to know, it was bragging basically, right? This is how we do business. So I sat there through the thing, right? And I'm like cogitating, right? I'm like, what the heck, right? So when it's all over, and he's a major domo of the whole thing, right? I walked up to the platform and I said, "Can I talk to you a minute?"
Yeah.
And so he did his, thing, and I said, "Well, you know what? I'm here to earn your business back." I said, I'm not the guy that did this. I just got back. I've been on a European assignment, and I want to earn your business. The story goes on from there, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got Turbo 1 back, ultimately, and then I got Turbo 2, Turbo 3, Turbo 4,
So the K
including variable geometry.
the K car turbos.
Well, those were just mass-produced ones. No, but I did the Shelby GLS,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did the Lancer Daytona with the VNT. I mean, we did it all. We got it all back.
So the guy tried to publicly shame you.
Make an example of me,
Yeah.
or my company, rather.
I love this story.
You can't. It's unbelievable, Gale.
Oh, my God.
mean,
Well, your success in winning the business back is amazing.
It's documented.
Yeah, well,
You know it.
I'm not doubting it. So
I even got to meet Carol Shelby.
at that same time, I was doing stuff with Carol as well, and he had the Shelby Chrysler facility down in Santa Fe Springs.
That's right.
He was renting it for like $1 a year. They installed him in there. They had a 200-foot skid pad out in the parking lot. They had an 1/8 mile drag strip, and they had a slalom course, left hand and right hand. I belonged to a dry lakes club called the Rod Riders.
Is that El Mirage?
El Mirage, Bonneville, all of it. A lot of the guys were from the Whittier area, and a lot of those guys got hired by Shelby. I had a shop with Bruce Geisler on Sorensen back in the day. Shelby set up like a quarter of a mile from the shop. It was the Chrysler Get Ready program.
Okay, the prepping, yeah.
The dealers took that over, so then the building is just empty. So it becomes Shelby Chrysler. I tested my Firebirds over there.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. GLS, that model of the K car.
Mm-hmm. That was my turbo.
Yeah, but goes like,
Stink.
yeah. That was Carol. Those were his letters. Man, this thing goes like.
It was GLHS, I think. They had an S on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go.
GLH.
Right.
Yes.
But there was one with an S, too.
There was another one, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. There was a GLS and a GLH. Goes like hell.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, what a deal. You're back from England.
I'm working hard.
I go over there to talk to the guys.
I wanted you to come over because I wanted to kick off get the team pulled together because they were dejected, right?
How did I do?
You did great. You did great. No, everybody loved it.
I was trying to paint the picture.
Yeah, but it's all about performing, right?
Yeah.
It's all about stepping up to the challenge and maybe somebody's done before, because that's what we like to do.
I got to tell you, in my mind, the turbocharger is the best performance tool ever
It is.
for internal combustion engines. the best.
It is by far.
And you can say, well, blower responds quicker and this and that.
Well, I can fix all that.
Absolutely. That's no longer a valid statement. I had to instill my enthusiasm in that crowd. All I remember was I was intimidated. Oh, my God.
You didn't look like it.
Well,
I've never seen you intimidated, Gale. Come on.
No. I was. I didn't show it, but
well, I didn't want to go up and talk to Dave Platt either. But
well, yeah, but you did. So another thing we did together was we went up to L.A. Raceway. What do they call it?
Yeah, L.A. County Raceway.
Yeah,
out in the desert.
A guy named Bernie ran that. I can't remember his last name. We did a lot of development on the dragster out there. On the Made in the USA funny car, was a gas or methanol thing. We bought Don Perdome's last funny car.
Oh, really?
So we had a proven setup. And we put the big twin turbo Banks Chevy in it.
Well, I wanted turbos to be in drag racing. You know that.
Of course, the dragster was top fuel. And a guy named Gray Baskerville used to write for Hot Rod magazine. He talked about the top fuel car in Hot Rod and whether or not NHRA would let it happen. And it kind of stimulated me to go over and talk to Wally Parks, who founded NHRA and ran it for decades. Met with his national technical director as well, Graham Light. Wally told me, Gale, I know you're doing this turbo thing. I know it's going pretty well. But I also know that there's no way in hell you're running.
You do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That you're running in NHRA top fuel. It's okay for you to test at our tracks.
Have fun.
But no, this isn't happening. So it didn't happen.
They can't handle it.
Last time I looked at an NHRA rule book, it was still banned.
To my knowledge, it
turbocharging
still
and top
is.
fuel and funny car as well.
It still is, as far as I know.
Yeah. So
I went to Nationals this year, and there was none there.
You're not going to see it. I don't think. And secondly, the blower setup in top fuel is so perfected.
For the purpose.
Yeah.
For that purpose.
The whole the way they tune them, everything.
It's a steep learning curve, turbos.
Well,
you know that.
Yeah. And that's why he didn't want me to do it.
Right.
I can't have one car winning every national event.
That'd be like the Chaparrals, remember them?
Oh, yeah. The fan cars.
Right.
Or fan car. He only ran that thing once.
It's called the unfair advantage.
Yeah. If you don't remember the fan car, the Chaparral road race car, there's only been a few done that way. You install a fan. They used a snowmobile engine to run the fan in this Can-Am car.
Suck it to the ground.
And just glue it down. Jim Hall, was that his name?
Jim Hall. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, out of Midland, Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hap Sharp and Jim Hall.
Yes.
The pair.
That thing was vicious and instantly banned. Some guys did it in Europe.
It's been messed with, but never. They won't let it happen.
Someone just ran a fan car at Goodwood and took the record.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been there.
It's out there. Yeah.
I'll find out.
It intrigues me.
Me too. I mean, I'm always looking for the edge.
Yeah. You came back. We teamed up to help Garrett promote turbochargers to the press, and you got back on the Buick thing. You weren't on the Buick thing before you went.
Yeah, we were. All the way back to 76.
Well, no, what I mean is you personally.
No, because I wasn't allowed to do cars.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't hook up there.
Right.
That was the guy, Jack Gantz, the real tall guy.
Yes.
He was
Tall Jack.
He was the guy they let do cars. They had like 4 or 5 guys. They would never let me do it
Yep.
until I came back and had it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That all started with the pace car in '76.
that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
The Buick pace car
fact,
at Indy.
Yeah, I actually found the whole history back. This is strictly GM. And this is the stuff you and I were trying to remember the other day.
Yeah. So Walt just gave me this Garrett AiResearch history
With General Motors.
with General Motors. This is awesome. Who published this? Garrett?
Yeah, I did that in 1988.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, that's after I got back.
Yeah. So it ends in 1988, I guess.
Yeah, that was a presentation to General Motors in 1988.
Yes.
Working our way back.
Mm-hmm.
But by then we'd done the Grand National. So
There's a lot of side stories here.
yeah, well, see, you'll know those
Yeah.
stories. The Iron Duke and on and on.
Yep. There's a lot of them here.
Yeah, so I mean, we paralleled. I mean, pretty much because I was with the OEM.
Well, I was very involved with Buick and Pontiac in
I
these
know.
years.
To the extent I could give you the inside track, I always did.
Yeah.
Because if I couldn't do
Oh,
it,
yeah.
I wanted you to do it. Because I wanted it done.
Yeah,
right? And you're the right guy to do it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I didn't give anything to anybody else other than if they made me do Smokey or something like that. If there's something that I thought should be done that I wasn't in a position to do, then I wanted you to do it. When I got back to America, my good buddy Herb
Yes.
was now with Lloyd Royce at Buick, the guy that you and I worked with Chevrolet so much.
Sure.
You know, I mean, he's like he's still one of my best friends. I never see him anymore, but we still maintain contact. So he was at Buick, and they wanted to. Buick was not doing well, and they wanted make a grandstand show.
Yeah.
So he invited me back with him to meet with Lloyd, and we did the Grand National, which was a production run, and then there was one version.
What year would this be?
It was 86, 87,
Yeah.
88. I think it's in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first year was 86, and then 87, 88, and then they stopped doing it, discontinued it.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was a really fun program. I think you were involved in that too. Didn't you help me out on that, son?
At the beginning?
Yeah. Didn't you help me out on that, son?
I
Because I couldn't. Yeah. I thought you did.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
I know that your GNX with a manual 6-speed in it.
The one I built, yeah.
Yeah, was the terror of Black Lake, the GM Proving Grounds.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Who was head of was it Dave McClellan? Was head
Yes.
of Chevrolet then?
He head of Corvette.
Corvette, I meant Corvette. Yeah.
And nothing in the corporation was supposed to beat or be capable of beating a Corvette.
A little V6.
Your little V6 just whopped ass on Corvettes. So,
But it did have variable geometry. It did have a ceramic turbine.
yeah,
It did
responded
have
very
ball
quickly.
bearings.
Mhm.
And actually, I had matched a T4 compressor with a T3 turbine.
Yes.
Because I had variable geometry, I could play, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I could have a lot of energy at low, and then I could push the high.
And
So-
the engine was fuel injected. The early turbo efforts with Buick were all carbureted.
and that's just not.
Yeah.
That's not a marriage made in heaven.
No, it's not.
It's not a marriage made in heaven. But mine was also manual.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I took that car to basically every major OEM, and because everybody was putting more and more speeds in their transmissions,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing that to cover up the hole in the torque, right?
Yes.
And so, I took it to Cadillac, and I would put it in third or fourth gear, like you'd lug a diesel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing would pull away like you downshifted in your automatic transmission. So me, the whole idea of 10 speeds in a transmission is like,
Yeah.
I mean, but
Was Bob Dorn there?
I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he was.
He'd be the chief engineer.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he was. But they took it all out.
At
Everybody, I
Pontiac.
let everybody drive it. Just drive it yourself. I mean, don't, because I'd rather have people experience things than make PowerPoints, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was always my thing.
Yeah.
It was even like that press day thing we did, I think I had darn near a dozen cars there, right?
Yes.
I had from natural to small turbo to VNT to intercool to, all the, so people could drive it.
To give visitors first-hand experience of this new level of control, a slalom course was set up to simulate city driving conditions. A quarter-mile drag strip-style acceleration run showed how turbo lag has been virtually eliminated through the use of the variable geometry turbocharger.
The capability exists to essentially control the velocity of the exhaust gas entering the turbine wheel by adjusting the nozzle area that the gas passes through before it enters the wheel. The control benefit as well as the efficiency characteristic is all contained within the technology of controlling the gas flow, which says you're never wasting any energy. You're applying full energy, but you're modulating that energy to have the boost characteristic consistent with what you want for the engine at a given speed and condition point.
On display was a twin-turbo racer custom-built by Gale Banks Engineering. Gale Banks himself was impressed by the instant boost provided by Garrett turbos.
The other thing that was brought out today that I think is incredible is the reliability in a production form. And when you're achieving 99.7% at 50,000 miles and 99% at 100,000 miles, that so far exceeds the reliability of the engines themselves. It's almost comical.
Press Day aimed to raise the level of awareness of both the press and public to the benefits of the latest generation of Garrett turbochargers.
The magazine people that were here today will walk away with that awareness, that it's possible to supercharge a production automobile and have it quiet and have it vibration free through the use of the turbocharger with geometry and ceramics and low friction bearing assemblies and other new technologies.
Suffice it to say, between the boats, the cars, and the trucks, and the OEM, and the press, the 80s were kind of a heyday for both of us.
They were indeed.
Yeah.
They were.
So we come to 1990. You left Garrett.
I left Garrett. After it got taken over, this is, well,
Now this
he
is
doesn't want to hear
this
about
is
it,
Signal, Allied Signal.
yeah, now it's Signal.
Yeah.
Now it's Allied Signal.
Yeah.
All of the people who knew me for my whole life almost,
Yep.
they quit. Right? They took early retirement. They just
They
resigned.
weren't there anymore.
They weren't. They wouldn't put up with it, quite frankly.
Yes.
John Kazir quit the day it was formal. The day the deal closed, he left.
Wow.
No announcement. I mean,
Yeah.
they paid him to stay until the deal was closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack Teskey, he got called to the New Jersey headquarters, and they told Jack, this is some months later, because now they had leveraged themselves and they needed to make money, so they had to cut costs. That's what they always do.
Yeah.
Told Jack Teskey, you have to go back to Garrett and you have to lay off 2,300 engineers.
Oh.
2,300 engineers. You know what Jack said? I won't do it.
Yeah.
They said, if you don't do it, you're fired. And Jack said, I quit. So
When all this is going down, from your return in 85 to 90, you created a whole new turbo.
it was a whole new business. It was a whole new turbo.
For the 6-liter Ford pickup.
It was for the Navistar, the 7.3 liter
So you stand the shaft on
vertical.
end.
It's the way I built the J58 engine at Pratt & Whitney.
Uh-huh.
We built everything for it. We stacked it.
Yes.
And then you had to get all, obviously all the dimensions.
Yeah.
We actually built the thing like building a tower.
So what year are we talking about here?
This is this all came out of after Dave Platt. I think I might have mentioned when I got back after I saw Jack Teskey, I asked for permission to have access. We had corporate jets, right? Because we were in a jet business, right?
Yes.
I asked for the corporate jet, and I went to see every customer in North America. Sometimes I would see 2 a day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, depending on how important they were.
Yeah.
I had dinner with John Horn, the CEO of Navistar,
Mm-hmm.
and Same speech I made to Air Bush, basically. Look, I know things haven't been going too well. I've been told. I've been brought back from Europe. I'm supposed to fix it.
Yeah.
So tell me what I got to do, right? Because I knew all these guys. I mean, we were all engineers. We grew up, as engineers together. And he said, well, Walt, he said, while you're away, your company really went down the tube. And he said, we have a whole new program. It's a brand new state-of-the-art engine. It's going to be called it's an exclusive pickup truck engine for Ford. Yeah. So it's a joint venture. It has the latest fuel injection technology called HUE.
Right.
It's hydraulically electronic injected.
I think they paid a license to Caterpillar.
Yeah, and they had some patent lawsuits afterwards. Several years later.
Got it.
But anyway, he said, and you guys were performing so poorly that we offered it to 3 other companies, but we didn't offer it to Garrett. And I said, John, man, I mean, that's really a low blow, right? Because I didn't even know. Nobody told me about that. I didn't know about that. He said, yeah, and he says, so I said, John, you got to give me a shot, right?
Yeah.
And he said, Walt, he said, you're way behind. He said, I said, you haven't even started, and everybody else just started it, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but you got to give me a shot, right?
Yeah.
And he said, okay. He said, I wish you luck, but if you want to have a go, and he gave me all the stuff, right?
Right.
And, I mean, everybody was in, KKK, Switzer, IH, I don't know, everybody was in the game. And we were out. And I had to put my hat on to think about that, but I was always thinking about it anyway.
Yeah. You got a space claim for the turbo.
Right.
Here's where it goes. Here's the space claim.
And here's all the other
It has
specs.
to fit in that.
It has to fit there, and it has to meet all these new environmental requirements, okay?
Yeah.
All these new environmental, because it's now a future engine, right?
Yes.
And so all the things were in place. And so, I mean, I went home, and I created a Skunk Works.
Mm-hmm.
I bought lease trailers, and I built a fence. There at Lomita, had a fence around it, and nobody could go in there except the team.
Got it.
Okay, because I didn't want anybody influencing, because I've been all through that as a young engineer. Everybody would tell me, oh, we tried that before and that didn't work. You'll never make that work. I mean, I've been told that so many. I didn't make everything work. And I had a lot of help, okay? I had a lot of help. I mean, a whole lot of help. I mean, I'd do anything by myself, right? I mean, I was like a coach. I was like, And so, and I recruited Carl Walter, who's Ryan's father-in-law, in shifting receiving, and because he's one of the greatest people I ever knew, and just great with people and smart as hell. I brought him from the Space Lab. I brought him over from the Space Lab. He ran Lomita.
Yeah,
but he ended up running businesses.
Is Carl still alive?
He's still alive. He's 87, I think, this year.
Gotcha. So you bring in Carl,
and we recruited a team, and they had trailers. And there were guys, I can tell you by name, it doesn't matter, who would say, they'd hear what we were doing, and they would criticize it and say this and that. And we didn't stop.
Yeah.
So we ended up designing a turbo. Everything before was manually assembled, right, by people.
Yes.
This was designed to be assembled, basically manufactured and assembled robotically.
Yes.
So you have to make all the moves simple, right? Mm-hmm. You have to get rid of all the stuff like shaft stretching with dial indicators to have the right clamp.
Yeah.
I mean that doesn't work when you start getting into the manufacturing millions, right?
Yes.
I mean, we worked like hell. It was like a Skunk Works. Because it's funny, even though Allied, they didn't mess with me. Of course, nobody ever messed with me. They'd fire me, but they wouldn't mess with me. I mean, it's just kind of like that. I never got a full frontal. It was always in the back.
I'm putting that on his gravestone.
Never a full
Walt
frontal.
Ware.
Never a full frontal.
Nobody ever messed with me.
Anyway. But we were going out of business because that was just endemic of everything else.
So
right?
First year, did you build a new assembly building, or did you?
No, I expanded this to 500,000 square feet.
Ah.
So I bought all new machines. I had to go to Allied Chemical to do this.
Hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
Yeah.
I had to ask for $17 million in 1986.
That's serious.
That's not a small amount of money.
Right.
Okay. So
at some point, you were building prototype turbos and sending them to Navistar and or Ford, however it went down, because they're working on the truck. We
did everything
at Ford.
We did what we ended up doing because it was this joint program. It was Navistar was the engine guy. They were kind of joint venture with Caterpillar on the Huey fuel injection.
Sure.
Ford was the end customer.
Right.
And when we won the contract, we were the sole source supplier for the charge air cooler, the turbo, the exhaust brake, even the cabin temperature heater.
Yes.
As it just turned out. This thing was so integrated. I mean, it was, but see, that's what I love system engineering. I don't like to mess around with this or that or this, you know.
Your manufacturing process, had anybody ever done a robotically assembled turbocharger?
No.
In the world?
No.
That's a big deal, Walt.
Nobody ever did that. I guess they're all doing it now.
Yeah, and you built millions of them.
We ultimately built millions. I think by the time I left, we built less than 10 million, but probably 8 million. By the time I resigned.
That's an astounding story.
But it was all fun, Gale.
Yeah.
Just all fun.
It's still fun. That's why we're here.
But you know what? And I mean, that ended up being, that's still a big business here. The 7.3 liter.
Ford 7.3s are incredibly popular.
Find that thing, because look at this. This is 2019.
It's written by Danny Coleman. Fluid damper, steady sales flow for the immortal 7.3 liter Power Stroke. They came off the production line somewhere between 210 and 275 horsepower. So
it's gone up.
Yeah, through the model run. So the 7.3 is still making news.
It's still making news. Yeah. This was the biggest turbocharger contract ever awarded anywhere in the world.
So this is Allied Signal, and it's a press release. Garrett Turbocharger Division. The supply contract is a unique multi-year agreement extending through the year 2000.
This is 1987.
Wow. That's amazing. This is a press release about Allied Signals / Garrett getting the biggest automotive parts contract ever. Who was notified at Garrett when this went down?
I was. John Horn called me personally.
Yeah.
The gentleman that wished me luck, remember?
Yes, he's the guy.
He's the CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah, here he is. It was a big deal. They had press there. They had we had signing pens. It looked like a big government deal.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
We were both young then.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually the Allied Signal corporate magazine.
Got it.
So
Quarterly Allied Signal magazine.
Their stock went up. That's the reason it's in there. They don't care about anything else.
So if you guys have ever driven a 7.3, you owe that experience to this man right here. That's pretty profound, Walt. Wow.
Well, you and I did some of that together. You know that.
I know that. Well, I know that.
I mean,
I'm just proud
we've been kind of, our
I'm
paths
just
have been
proud
aligned
to have,
for a long time.
I'm proud to have worked with you on that stuff.
I'm proud to still be here. I've probably worked here longer than any other company except Garrett. You haven't fired me yet.
Nope, don't intend to. So we probably both get fired.
We go together, right?
Yeah.
That's the deal, right?
So that's a high point in your career. The high point, I would say. After leaving Garrett, you went on to Gould Pumps. Then you got a call from Roger Penske and went to Detroit Diesel. And then Roger sold Detroit Diesel. to Daimler, I guess.
Yes, to Daimler.
Yeah. Then you went to Turbodyne doing electric superchargers.
And electric turbochargers.
Yeah.
Both.
The Dynacharger.
The Dynacharger, exactly.
Electric.
Exactly.
And I used some of the Turbodyne product, as I
You did.
recall.
You did. That was a Bonneville thing.
Pushing the Teague, Welch, and Banks streamliner at Bonneville. I wanted that Cummins dually to come out of the hole, and it didn't until we did your electric supercharger. And then we get to 2016, and I snapped you up, and you've been here ever since.
I know. I came by to say I was moving to Texas where my youngest daughter was, remember?
And I talked you out of it.
You did, and I'm still here. And we're having fun, right?
Yeah, we sure as hell are.
We've been messing around with hybrids and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this has been a pleasure for me.
As well.
It's obvious. Walt and I have been friends for decades. It's obvious that he's had different experiences than I've had, because I've never worked in the corporate world.
You're so lucky, Gale. It gets in the way of doing things.
Yeah.
It really does get in the way of doing things.
Yeah, I don't ask I do ask my customers permission. That I do.
I do too. And I listen to them more than my bosses. So.
Yeah, and I've got some really large customers.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do.
And we are defining
how to do business in some ways. Right?
Yes, that. And secondly, we're growing the hybrid side of our military business. We've got two solid hybrid projects. One is a series hybrid, where the engine drives the generator, or complete hybrid projects in which we're doing everything, all the electrical equipment, vehicle control architecture. The vehicle controller actually controls the engine and the electric portion of the system.
Right.
Man, it's an exciting place to be.
It is indeed.
Yeah, a very exciting place to be. If you've tuned in just for this episode, go back and see the others. I think you will get some laughs, learn some things, and venture into the Walt's corporate world. And he is Walt. You've run at the highest levels. You've got.
I've been run out too. I've been run out too.
Oh yeah. Get the hell out of here. But I want to thank you.
My pleasure, Gale. My pleasure. Always.
See you guys on the next episode.
Be sure to subscribe for more episodes of Speed School with Gale Banks.